The little bird who lost his song. In a hidden corner of the whispering forest, where the sunlight trickled through emerald leaves and flowers hummed gentle lullabies, lived a tiny bird named Pip. He wasn't the largest or the strongest among the creatures, but his gift was unmatched. His song could calm storms and awaken blooming petals. Each morning, as dawn stretched her golden fingers across the sky, Pip would perch on the tallest branch of the blossom tree and sing. The other animals, squirrels, deer, rabbits, even butterflies, would gather in silence, enchanted by the sound. Trees swayed softly in rhythm, and even the river slowed its rush to listen. But one morning, something strange happened. The forest stirred as usual. The animals gathered below the blossom tree. The wind carried the scent of jasmine and pine. Pip, as always, spread his tiny wings and opened his beak. Nothing came out. No trill, no chirp, not even a whisper. Pip tried again, flapping harder, standing taller, but his voice was gone. Not a note escaped. His little heart thudded, heavy and confused. The creatures stared in quiet wonder. The trees didn't sway. The flowers stopped moving. The silence was louder than ever before. Embarrassed and scared, Pip flew away from the gathering and found a low, quiet branch far from the blossom tree. Tears welled in his tiny eyes. "What's wrong with me?" he whispered to the wind, which had no answer. He remembered the joy of singing, how the melodies used to flutter from him like magic. Now, there was only silence inside. He watched the sky, hoping the clouds would offer advice, but they only drifted slowly, as if unsure themselves. Then, a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "You seem troubled, little one." Pip turned to see a majestic owl with feathers as silver as moonlight and eyes as deep as ancient wells. It was Aura, the wisest creature of the forest, known for solving riddles and reading the stars. Aura the owl tilted her head gently, observing Pip with quiet kindness. "Your feathers are trembling, and your eyes are clouded with worry. What troubles your heart this morning?" I lost my song," Pip admitted, lowering his head. "I tried to sing, but nothing came out. I don't understand. It was always there." Aura blinked slowly, as if weighing her thoughts like ancient books in a library. "Sometimes," she said softly, "the voice is not lost, but hidden beneath feelings we have yet to name. Have you felt afraid? Or perhaps unsure of yourself?" Pip blinked. "Maybe." I was excited, but also nervous. What if everyone was expecting something perfect? The owl gave a small nod. "Ah, perfection," she whispered. "A heavy cloak for such small wings. You mustn't fear silence, Pip. Within it, we hear the truth of our hearts." "But how do I find my voice again?" Pip asked, a spark of hope flickering. "You must explore," Aura replied. "Look beyond what you've always known. The forest speaks in many ways, not only through songs. Listen closely to its rhythm. Your voice may be waiting where you least expect it." With that, Aura spread her wings and vanished into the trees, leaving Pip alone with the rustle of the leaves and 1,000 unanswered thoughts. Later that day, Pip wandered through the sunlit trail, where golden beams warmed the mossy earth. He flew low, listening carefully to every crunch, chirp, and whisper the forest offered. But none of it sounded like his song. Then, from behind a bush, came a voice that danced like flickering flames. Well, if it isn't the famous singer in search of silence. A sleek red fox emerged, tail swishing with amusement. Her name was Sella, known across the forest for her clever mind and sharp words. Pip bristled slightly. "I'm not famous anymore. I've lost my voice." "Maybe," said Sella with a grin, circling him. "Or maybe you've outgrown the song you once knew. Ever think about trying something new?" "New?" Pip asked. "But I only know how to sing." "Then it's time to learn something else," she said. "Try whistling with the wind, or mimic the babble of the brook, or," she leaned in with a glint in her eyes, "create a sound that no one has ever heard before." Pip's wings twitched. "I don't know how." "You won't until you try," she said, vanishing into the trees like a shadow at sunset. Pip sat in silence, pondering her words. As twilight painted the forest in violet and gold, Pip followed a narrow stream that twinkled with reflected stars. He heard the splash of tiny feet and followed the sound until he reached a lily-covered pond, glowing softly under the rising moon. Sitting atop a lily pad, humming to himself and tapping his webbed toes, was a plump green frog. "Hello there," said the frog with a wide grin. You look like someone carrying a heavy silence. Pip landed nearby. I lost my song, he explained quietly. I've been trying to find it. The frog chuckled, his throat puffing out like a soft drum. You're looking for music in the wrong place. You're chasing notes instead of listening to the ones already here. Pip blinked. What do you mean? Close your eyes, the frog said. Now, tell me what you hear. Pip obeyed. Slowly the forest unfolded around him in a new way. He heard the splash of water droplets hitting stones, the buzz of a sleepy beetle passing by, the gentle croak of the frog, the rustle of leaves brushing one another, and even the faint hum of the earth breathing beneath him. It's beautiful, Pip whispered, eyes still closed. The frog nodded. That's the forest's own lullaby. Maybe your song isn't something you sing, but something you feel. Let it in, and it will find its way back. Pip opened his eyes. The sadness in his chest felt lighter, as if the silence he carried was no longer empty, but full of soft, unseen music. That night, Pip nestled beneath a fern and fell into a deep sleep filled with strange and wonderful dreams. He dreamt of trees humming lullabies, of stars blinking in rhythm with his heartbeat, of winds painting pictures with sound. In one dream, he stood on the blossom tree again, but this time, he didn't sing alone. The forest joined him. Crickets chirped, streams whispered, leaves rustled in harmony. And then, he heard it. A single, clear note rising from his chest, light as a feather, but strong like the wind. He woke with a gasp. Was that real? The morning mist hung over the forest like a silver blanket, and Pip's heart thudded with something he hadn't felt in days, hope. The early morning air was crisp, with golden light spilling through the treetops. Pip flew slowly, his wings steady, his heart racing with anticipation. He wasn't sure what he would find, but something deep inside told him it was time to return. As he approached the blossom tree, it stood just as before, tall, proud, its branches swaying gently, petals fluttering down like snowflakes. But today, the silence around it felt different, not empty, but waiting. Pip landed softly on his favorite branch. He looked out at the forest, remembering the advice of Aura, the wisdom of Selah, and the peace he'd found by the pond with the frog. He inhaled slowly, listening, not just to the forest, but to the quiet within him. Then, he opened his beak. At first, nothing, but he didn't panic. He closed his eyes, thought of the rustling leaves, the gentle water, the evening breeze, and then, without effort, a gentle note rose into the air. It was small, unsure, but it was his. Another note followed, then another, and soon his melody began to bloom, soft, rich, and deeper than before. It carried the stories of his journey, the wisdom he'd gathered, the beauty he'd found in silence. Below, the animals began to appear one by one: squirrels, deer, mice, rabbits. Even the fox stood hidden in the trees, smiling faintly. Aura circled above, proud and silent. And then, the forest moved. Leaves shimmered, streams sparkled. The wind swirled gently, like it was dancing with his song. Pip continued to sing, not to impress, not to prove anything, but simply to share. Every note was filled with love, gratitude, and courage. This wasn't the same song he had sung before. It was new. It was stronger. It was himself, fully. When he finally stopped, the forest stood still for a long moment. Then, as if waking from a dream, it burst into applause. Leaves rustled, paws clapped, wings flapped, and the river gurgled with joy. The blossom tree swayed proudly, its petals spiraling around Pip like a celebration. Pip looked out at his friends, Aura with her ancient eyes, Selah with her mischievous grin, the frog clapping from his lily pad. They hadn't just helped him find his voice, they had helped him remember who he was. From that day forward, Pip continued to sing, but never out of fear or expectation. His song changed with the seasons, sometimes joyful, sometimes soft, sometimes silent, but always real. And whenever a creature in the forest felt lost or unsure, they would listen for the little bird's melody, drifting on the breeze, a reminder that even when your voice feels gone, it might just be sleeping, waiting to wake up again. And that sometimes the greatest music comes not from perfection, but from the courage to begin again.